Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hello Dave, and oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. It's been everywhere, of course, that Frontier has made a new financial statement because of some changes to their expectation for the year, and in that financial statement, they did also mention some of their plans very briefly. It's in one sentence, but it's been talked about a lot about what they're going to do with Elite Dangerous going forward. The Elite Dangerous community, we're just so starved for information, so that this one sentence, everybody just latched onto it, and it's been analyzed and overanalyzed everywhere. So I'm gonna do my thing on it as well, obviously. November 17th, Frontier released their latest game, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and on November 27th, that's 10 days after the launch, they came out with a financial statement saying that the game has been underperforming so badly that they've been forced to reduce their expectations for this year. And you might know that Frontier has kind of a staggered, or their financial year doesn't start at January 1st. I think they have is it end of March or May or April or something like that, somewhere in the spring. And that's when their financial year ends. So they're actually in their financial year 2024 right now. And they have changed their expectations for that year from previous to having a revenue of 108 million pounds, and they reduced that with 30-ish million pounds. So they're now saying they're expecting to land around 80 to 95 million pounds in revenue, not profit, in revenue. That, of course, sparked a drop in the Frontier stock price, so they're now down just over 95% compared to the all-time high in January 2021, just prior to the Elite Dangerous Odyssey release. All of that doesn't really matter much for us Elite players. The reason why we're talking about this is because that they did also mention their plans going forward for the next 3 years. What are they going to do to be profitable? One of the things they said is that they're not going to be profitable in their financial year 2024. They've had a string of bad releases that hasn't performed as well as they wanted to. And they are hoping to break even in their next financial year. That's the financial year 2025. That means the one that is ending in 2025. And they talked about what they're going to do in the future. They said that they wanted to develop and support Elite through 2025, 2026, and 2027. Likely further. That's just as far as they mentioned. Now, there's been a lot of talk, and depending on what channels and which news sources you look at, people interpret this sentence very, very differently. And all they said was they wanted to develop and support. Now, in my mind, support just means that we're not going to shut down the servers. So this is your confirmation that Elite Dangerous servers is very likely, at least it's Frontier's plan, to have them running for at least 3 years, likely longer. This is just as far as they talked about. They don't talk about any further than 2027 right now, but for the foreseeable future, they're not going to shut down the servers. That's what I read into support. The develop part of it is more interesting, because developing a game can be anything. It just means that they're not planning to put it into maintenance mode. Developing doesn't mean massive big updates like Odyssey scale updates. Developing could also be just what they've been doing for the last year now with the Trak stuff, where they just make minimum updates, small changes to a narrow part of the game. That is also very likely that that's going to happen. So personally, I think it's great that we now have some confirmation that they are still committed. They commit themselves to continue to support and develop Elite Dangerous, so it's not going into maintenance mode and not pulling the plug on the servers. Exactly what that develop means, we still don't know. That's going to be hopefully something we're going to figure out in the not too distant future. I'll talk more about that in the next segment here in a bit. But they also talked about what they're going to do to try and get the company back on track, because no one's going to deny Frontier's not in a great place right now. What they're saying to do is they're going to go back to basics. They're going to focus on the things that is, in their mind, a secure and should be an easy win for them. So they're going to go back and they're focused on these management sims, these park management sims, and they're going to develop 3 of them over that period, 1 in 2025, 1 in 2026, and 1 in 2027. They don't mention which ones, but I think it's fair to assume that Planet Coaster, Planet Zoo is 2 of them. There might be another one. So it's likely that we over the next coming years are going to see follow-ups to those games. They say it was new games, so it's likely going to be a sequel and not just like add-ons to the existing ones. It's going to be like self-contained new games that are going to go out. And in a follow-up interview that Johnny Watts did, he also mentioned that they are planning to like get back to basic, get to these like secure launches, things that they know how to do, and that he hopes is going to be profitable within a month of release. That's their target, that they are launching something and month after release, they should have recuperated the development cost of that game. And I think this is a solid tactic from Frontier. And it's fun. If you go back, I have a video that's like 2 months old now. If you go back and watch that, something I talk about the opportunity, the chances for Frontier doing a Elite Dangerous 2. Now we know they're not going to build on that for the next 3 years at least. But in that video, what I also mentioned was that if I were in Frontier's place, like 2 months ago, I said if I was in Frontier's place, what I would do was I would get rid of all this new stuff that they're trying to branch into when they're trying to diversify their portfolio. They need to get back to basics. They need to focus on these management sims that they know how to do, because you need to give them credits. They know how to make a park management sim. Like these Jurassic World Evolution, Planet Coaster, Planet Zoo, they know how to make them. They know how to make these games well. And that's what they need to focus on. Now we are 2 months down the line, and this is what Frontier is now going to do, and they have committed to, and that the CEO has said this is what they want to do for the next following 3 years. I think it's a solid tactic, and I have no doubt that this is going to be the best chance Frontier has to get back on track. Focus on what you're good at, and I'm glad to see that they have also taken Elite Dangerous into consideration in that development, keeping at least the IP alive, keeping the game alive, keeping it hopefully relevant. Now, in more like short-term news for Elite Dangerous, some of you may remember that Frontier said in one of their previous Frameshift lives that they were planning a bug fixing / stability patch for November. Now, as recording this, we are now sitting at the beginning of December, which last time I checked is after November, and still no bug fix or stability patch. People were a little confused about this over on the forum, as there has been no news from Frontier. They said they were going to do this patch, and then just radio silence. Nothing happened. So there were a forum post, people were discussing back and forth, and they came in with like a one sentence, like one line. I think it was Paul over there just quickly replied and said, "Oh yeah, by the way, yeah, that's delayed, and we'll tell you when we know more." That's all they really said. So it's likely still coming. They don't know when or what that patch is going to contain. I just thought it was a little weird that it seems to have just like fallen through the cracks somewhere. That they just, I don't really think they forgot about it. I think the patch, like, I don't think they forgot to make the patch. I think they just, either it was poorly coordinated with the information, or the patch has obviously been delayed. But the information about the patch being delayed has just not been relayed to the Elite community. And I think that's a result of the fact that Elite doesn't really have a dedicated community team at this moment in time, since both the two people that's left in the Elite Dangerous community team is Arthur and Paul, and both of those guys are also working on Warhammer Age of Sigmar that came out, as we talked about, on the 17th of November. So it is natural that they have been very focused and probably been very busy with that. So I think that might have been one of the reasons why that since their focus has been elsewhere, that piece of information was not really relayed to the Elite community, that patch has been delayed. Again, they said they will tell us when they know more. So either the patch is going to be, I think it's likely that the patch is going to be cancelled, and they're just going to take those changes and roll them into another patch they're going to do later down the line. Now, at least that's probably how I would do it, since they're not going to get so close, I think, to the next update, that I would probably just bundle it all together and do it in one big patch. So it's not like we're not getting the changes. I just think they're going to be rolled into to a bigger patch that we're going to get. Hopefully, they're going to be able to tell us more. They have this Christmas Frameshift Live, like the end of the year. They always do that with like in one of their bigger streams. There's often giveaways and stuff happening. I think it's likely they're going to be able to tell us a little bit more by then. But for now, at least, no bug fixing or stability patch for now. We will see when that comes, or if it's just going to be rolled into a future patch. Moving over to Star Citizen news, update 3.22 is on the ePTU, that's the Evocati PTU. It's been there for a while, but the ePTU has now been made available to, not the general public, but at least to Wave 1, so that will often be Corsair or subscribers that's going to get access to the ePTU. Now, lots of small things. I already did a video on it on Saturday where I just briefly went over all the changes that have been made in this patch. The major new feature, of course, is structural salvage that's been added. And from what I've seen, it's received a mixed review. I've been playing around with it. I can definitely see some of the criticism that people are giving it is that the game mechanic is too simple. I mean, basically, you have two modes for your new structural, well, like there's a fragmentation mode and a disintegration mode, and then you go to fragmentation mode, you point at the thing you want to fragment and then do nothing and wait for 30 seconds, and then the thing goes boop and then splits into multiple pieces. Then you go to each piece in the disintegration mode, and they just boop, turn into dust and automatically get sucked up. So the gameplay is very passive. There's not really any mini game around it. It's just you swapping between the two modes and just pointing at what you want. So I can see that criticism that the gameplay is very simple. I think we're going to see some noticeable changes, not necessarily to the gameplay, but at least to the amount of material you get, or the prices of it. There's been a bit of an issue on the ePTU server that since everybody's testing it, the markets in there is getting saturated, and that means there's just nowhere that you can actually sell the materials anymore. Since everybody's out salvaging, testing it out, there's no way you can sell it. I have seen that people are talking about that you can sell it into refineries, which should have an infinite capacity, as far as I understand. But that means you can't take it out of the hopper or the buffer inside the filtering stations, which is okay. It's actually relatively large, 14 SU on the Vulture, and like is it 399 on the Reclaimer. Now they're currently selling, like if you put it out into boxes, they're selling for 12,000 per SCU. 12 and a half, I think. That means if you have those like 400, we're talking 5 million. And I was playing around with it with some of the guys who were on Discord the other night. The servers were very unstable. We didn't really get to test it completely, but we took a mission that cost 50,000 alpha UEC. We flew out. It was a C2. Didn't even bother hull scraping the surface. We just went straight for the structural salvage. Cracked the ship open. Just took the main hull. Forgot about all the like surrounding piece. Just took the main hull that instantly filled the reclaimer like that. And if we can sell that for 5 million, I mean, from when we arrived until the hopper was full, took less than 5 minutes. 5 million, boom. If we could just head to a refinery and sell that, that's a lot of money real quick. That's why I think we're going to see some kind of balancing around this. Also, I hope that they're going to do a little bit more with the gameplay in it, so it is less passive. Usually, I think CIG is really good at designing these mini games. And it seems to me like the structural salvage here could have used an additional internal iteration to just fine-tune the gameplay a little bit. Maybe they're gonna add it, maybe they're gonna keep this in ePTU for a while. I know that a lot of people are talking about that they're expecting 3.22 to come out this year, so if that's true, then we're not gonna see a lot of changes. Or maybe they're going to add it in the state that it's in and then refine it later. We've also seen them doing that in the past. But right now, I can definitely see the criticism that people are saying that the gameplay is too simple and that it needs a bit of refining. But nevertheless, in the state that it's in right now, assuming you can actually go and sell it, there could potentially be quite a bit of money to be made with this structural salvage, especially if you can run it in a reclaimer. And to make it even more fun is you can actually do this with the reclaimer solo. You don't need to be a lot of people since there's only one salvage arm for structural salvage. So you can run this solo quite effectively. So there's a lot of money to be made if this goes in this current state. But we'll see what happens. As I said, it is an ePTU at the time of this recording. I believe it's still in wave 1. but I'm expecting it to go into further waves down the line. Which leads me on nicely to the live stream tomorrow. Business as usual, live streamed at 8 p.m. GMT here on YouTube, and of course we're going to be jumping in on the ePTU servers. I've had a bit of a mixed bag of luck with the servers. I was playing with it here over the weekend, and sometimes I could just sit there and record for hours, no problems, running just smooth. Other times it would just crash after 15 minutes. So as it is with these ePTU servers, it can be a bit of hit and miss in terms of stability. We'll see. If it's too unstable, we might jump onto the live servers and play around in there, do something fun there if it's just completely unplayable. I don't want to have another live stream where we're just going to end up with a crash counter in the 20s or 30s. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to try on the day to go in and we can play around with the reclaimer and try to go out and do some salvage and see how much we gain and stuff like that. I hope I'll see you guys there. As I said, it is tomorrow at 8 o'clock GMT and live stream right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. That's good for this week. And until next time, I will see you guys in space.